your body thinks that it's still sunlight.
Entrepreneurship. You cannot build a business without having people around you that not only are part of your team.
About is they purchase this sofa and they take it with them across the city, across Toronto.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Restless Millennial Podcast, the voice of the motivated youth. Today I'm here with Paul Deng, and he is the founder of Passionfruit. And before we get started here, I'm just going to let Paul tell us what Passionfruit is.
All right, well, in a nutshell, Passionfruit is a social app. We're trying to do things a little differently than the other apps out there that are available for meeting people. Usually, when I describe what I'm making, people give me the answer, oh, so it's like Tinder, or oh, it's a dating app. But it's really not. What we're trying to do, in fact, the key feature of the app is that you don't have profile pictures on the app. Now, we're not obviously against you knowing what the people you meet are going to look like, but we don't want the first impression of you having someone be how they look. We actually want to take what the internet has been able to offer us. Think back to the days of like just chat rooms or online bulletin boards. Like people were going back and forth, talking, getting to know each other based on their common passions, like what they were into, things they cared about, their values, things like that, and through that they bonded. So in a way, we just really want to channel that energy. We want to go back to basics, grassroots a little bit with that, but we want to take it a little bit more seriously, because the thing with those kinds of the services back in the early days of the internet was that usually you would just go on there to de-stress or unwind at the end of your day, just chat to some random strangers who you'll never meet in real life, right? But maybe that's just your private time for 30 minutes or so. So we are actually, in the design of our app, we make it geographically located. So people who are around you who are passionate about the same things, you're able to find those people. So the point of that is to sort of nudge people to get to know people in their local cities based on what they have in common, and use that as a bridge, as a foundation, as a starting point to maybe develop a long-term friendship. And who knows where that could lead. That could lead to collaboration in terms of working on some project together, or it could lead to being life partners or whatever. It's a whole range of things. Who knows? And actually, one other aspect was in the early stages of that, when thinking about how we're going to market this, was we can make it target to like the musician community, like an app for musicians, like. Because musicians are always looking to find band members, right? They're always looking to evolve and work with new people. So it's just like, okay, I say what I'm into, and this is what you're into. Now we collaborate, because you can't make music alone. Not really good music. You always need a few team members to take care of the different aspects that go into.
That's really unique, especially compared to all the other social apps that are out there right now, which are very superficial. They rely only on that profile picture and on nothing else, right?
Yeah.
Well, I assume some people, look at more than just the profile pictures. But if we're talking about like the mass, society, then it's mainly profile pictures. But one thing I want to ask you is, where did this idea to create an app based on passions, where did this come from, and how did you kind of start it? What was your inspiration?
There's several factors that converge to lead me to solidifying on this particular idea. When I first got into the mindset of I want to try to make something that has value for society, right? Because you need to do that as a baseline for any startup to work, right? I thought, okay, well, I'm just one person. At that point, it was just me. I have a small team now, but not much bigger. So I thought, what could I reasonably make that I can afford to make that doesn't take a huge team, right? Most businesses have pretty high barriers to entry, right? If you want to start some production facility somewhere,
you need the capital.
You need capital. You need to invest first, right? You're talking about a lot of money. And one of the things with apps, with software, is that it's known to have as low as barriers to entry as possible. That's why there's so many apps out there, because anyone can just try their hand in making an app, right? So I settled on, okay, I'm going to do an app. But then the next question became, okay, what kind of app am I going to do, right? So the way that Passionfruit is designed, with no profile pictures, it really helps us because we don't store that much information, that much data, and our server costs are pretty low. So we could conceivably afford to keep this going bootstrapped and with my own funding for quite a while, without having to shut things down because we've just burned through all of our cash, and we like the idea, but okay, now we didn't get investors and we can't continue. I didn't want to have that scenario. So when I picked an idea, that was one of the key factors, that I didn't want to be beholden to outside interests in terms of
So what are some, when you were like researching how to build this app, what were some problems that you noticed with the social apps that are out there on the market right now? Can you talk a little bit about those?
So I mean, I've never really been, I'm pretty old school, right? I before working on this, I had like an old Windows Nokia phone. I never I didn't even have a data plan, I think.
How long ago was that?
That was about a year, maybe
was
a year and a half.
Was it one of those flip ones?
No, it was like the brick.
Okay.
I mean, it was a smartphone.
It's indestructible.
But, yeah, it was, but I didn't really use social media much. A lot of these apps. So I'm kind of like coming at this as an outsider and looking at how people use these apps, and you read like these articles every now and then about how young people nowadays depression is a big issue, loneliness, people feel isolated, and there's a lot of celebrity or worship culture, I would say, like with apps like Instagram. It's always a one-to-many kind of dynamic. Or let's say you're popular on Facebook, like there's 10,000 people responding to your post, right? And there's people who their entire lives, they actually they call them influencers, I think nowadays. They make an entire living off of just living their life and being followed, right? But that's very concentrated. Not too many people can be in that role. And there's a lot of people that they just don't get the interaction and the attention and the empathy that they need as human beings, because they just follow people,
and they worship these people and compare themselves to them.
Right, and exactly.
We've talked about that in other episodes.
So who's looking out, in terms of them, and who's relating to them on a one-to-one dynamic? So that's one of the issues that I identified. Another issue I identified was particularly with apps that are designed to meet new people. So some of these apps are you add all your friends to it and they just follow you, right? Like Facebook, like Instagram. But then there's apps like we said, Tinder, where you go out and meet new people. It seems that predominantly these apps are just, the way they're geared is the visuals are the most important thing. Now they've kind of evolved over the years, and they're adding kind of new bells and whistles around the edges, right? You can write some stuff. But the way that they're designed, it never really gets away from the fact that the first thing you see is this big collection of the person's best looking 6 pictures. And that's and you're swiping them. And that's basically your metric for deciding whether you want to meet somebody or not. And I understand that probably does work for like if you just want to hook up, right?
Yeah,
that was
true.
What it was initially supposed to be. But now all these other apps are kind of jumping on that bandwagon because they proved the concept and they're very popular. So even apps like OkCupid, for example, which historically in the past wasn't based on that model, but they've changed their app now that the first thing you do is you swipe people. So it seems that
it wasn't like that before.
No, actually, OkCupid back in the day, it was you had to like actually go reach out to people individually.
Really?
Yeah, you basically. You saw people in your area, and then it's like a gallery or collage or whatever, and then you decided who you wanted to meet. But I mean, now everybody's kind of jumping on this swiping bandwagon. So I saw that
the swiping bandwagon.
There's a lot of groupthink. So I thought, okay, well, I've always been a contrarian. I studied a bit of the stock market before as well back in my previous life before I started a startup. So I've always appreciated the value of being a contrarian thinker as a way to exploit unseen opportunities. And I thought, okay, if everybody's doing this one thing, what if we try to do something that's not being done? Is that feasible? Is there a market for it? Do people want that to a sufficient degree that we can make a go of it and provide value to people?
So I just want to give you a scenario. So let's say you've used, you're someone like myself who's used so many different dating apps. Okay. Why would someone like myself turn to Passionfruit opposed to looking for another dating app?
Well, first of all, we don't intend to
be identified as a dating
app.
Exactly.
That's not. In fact, if anything, it's the opposite. We're not. I'll say straight up, we are not a dating app. We are an app for you to meet people.
Well, let me rephrase that. Let's say I'm someone who just wants to meet like-minded people.
Like-minded people.
Like you said, someone who's new to a city.
So then.
But who doesn't want to do that through a dating app?
who doesn't want to do so your options are what, like, so to meet like-minded people, what are your options?
But I don't want, let's say you're trying to meet like-minded people, but you don't want hookups. Like you're just trying to make friends in a new city, kind of situation. Why
so
would I turn to Passion
why would
Fruit
you
opposed to using Tinder or the other ones to meet people?
Well, I think the answer in terms of Tinder is fairly obvious, because with Tinder you just get served a feed of people. Like I think the way they design their algorithm isn't based on anything except the attraction. And actually, they have something like an ELO rating. Whereas if you're more physically desirable, you get matched with other people that are more physically desirable. And if you're desirable enough to a certain degree, you get into like a special like Tinder Black or Tinder Elite, and then you get to meet celebrities. So it's all geared towards that, right? Exactly. So yes, because the celebrities, they pay for that. Yeah, it's actually pretty expensive, but they want to meet people that are desirable. So you don't get into that unless you hit a certain level, right? I think with Tinder it's fairly obvious, but we can go to even some other ones that because I've studied maybe 100 apps out there that are designed to meet people one way or another. One app is, I'm sure you've heard of Meetup, right? Yeah. So why would you use Passionfruit over Meetup? People use Meetup. I think if you go, the first thing you see when you go on Meetup is you see that it's a very event-driven platform, right? You just see, okay, well, Tuesday, what's going on? There's soccer, there's bowling, there's dancing. And there could be 100 people going to a meetup. But people really use Meetup. I think the way they use Meetup is they want to do an activity. I want to join a soccer team, so that's why I'm going to get on Meetup to fulfill that need in my life, right? It's not really about connecting with people per se, right? And so Meetup has a chat feature section of it, but it's pretty dead. Nobody actually uses it. People just go to the meetups, and if they like people there, they exchange Facebooks or phone numbers or whatever, right? And that works in that context, right? But let's say you want to connect with people before you commit to going somewhere. Let's say you don't want to drive 1 hour out to some event and meet 100 people in some big hall and do networking without knowing what you're going to get out of that, right? You want to do some vetting before that. You want to know that you have a connection with somebody, and maybe you go carpool to an event together because you already know you have a connection. So this is more for that angle. And I think even more so nowadays, what we really want to do is make it as simple as possible to find those people, right? We don't want people to have to go through all that extra work because everybody's getting busier, work hours are getting longer, right? And another thing is that smartphones are becoming more and more prevalent part of everybody's lives. So everybody's glued on their smartphones. So nowadays, people don't like to go out as much unless it's like they know what they're getting. It's like, do I really want to go?
Especially if you're a busy entrepreneur,
right?
As well.
Busy,
you don't have time to do that.
Or whatever you're working on. You could be, so people that they have to wait. Oh, I could just keep browsing on my smartphone or playing whatever I'm doing.
To be honest, it's kind of frustrating. You're just swiping. Yeah. It gets really tiring after a while. Right? I'm someone who's experiences that often because I use dating apps. I'll admit it.
So I mean, I like I said, it's not a dating app, but if you want to go back to the whole why would it be a better experience than Tinder, there's a lot of there's an undercurrent to Tinder and apps like that, right? Now people don't really talk about it because nobody wants to talk about how they don't have great experiences or they didn't have a lot of luck on Tinder. But I mean, essentially it works very well if you're considered physically desirable, but how many people out there would qualify as like a 9 out of 10? I mean, it's just statistics, right?
And it's superficial too, because everybody sees people differently, right?
So I think most people, there's an undercurrent of people that they're not being served by these apps, but there's nowhere for them to go. Their best qualities are not on the surface; they're underneath, and it's like, so where can I go where that is accentuated?
Where your best qualities can be accentuated.
Exactly. So that's why we designed it. And I know it's a bit draconian, but I say no profile pictures because we really want the connection to be based on something deeper than that.
And like we were talking off air, like if you want to see the picture of the person, you can get them on Instagram.
Oh, right? Absolutely.
Are people just going to post their first names or their first and last names?
So
and then
actually,
you'd figure it out as you're talking to the person.
So with the current design of the app, we have two proposals, and we actually plan to launch with this and then get feedback from our users and see what people are more comfortable with. So we can either go full name, because basically we want to make it as simple as possible. So you just sign up through your Facebook account, And we just pull basic info like your name, your age, your gender, right? So one option is we just take your full name as it is on Facebook. The second option is that we take the first initial of your last name. So we'll see over time if people are comfortable giving out their full names or if we want the more anonymity to it.
And in terms of posting your passions, how many passions can people post? Is it just one passion and then you match people up based on that one passion?
So yeah, I haven't, that's good. That's a very good question. I haven't really explained the core mechanics behind the app. Okay. So there's three ways that you can match with people on Passionfruit. Okay. The first way is what's called a passion match. It's the strongest kind of match. In this way, you get one passion. Okay. What are you most passionate about, right? And now you can change this every week. No, not more than once. You can't spam change this. You can't game the system,
day,
right?
You're passionate.
You can change your mind about it, but with certain limits. So you can tell us what you're most passionate about at that point in time, right?
And you can enter anything?
Anything. You can enter anything. It's a free entry text field. So it could be books, it could be movies, whatever it is. I can't even imagine all the things that people would be passionate about, right? And if somebody else has that exact same passion, and you're within the same geographical area that 100, you can also in the settings
set it yourself?
you can set your distance limit, the age range of people you want to find, and the gender of people you want to find, right? If you have a specific idea of the people you want to meet, but by default we let you look for everybody. So if somebody's in your area and they exactly match your passion, then you're automatically matched. So you don't have to approve them. You don't have to swipe right on them and they swipe right on you too. That is basically, the effect of that is basically you both swipe right. And then you're basically added to each other's matches and you can start talking to each other freely, right? I mean, if you don't like them, you can obviously block them and all that. But right, so that's the strongest kind of match. But we recognize that, especially while this app is trying to get traction and we don't have a lot of users, it's going to be pretty difficult to find that exact special match, your soulmate or whatever it might be, right? So we don't want to only exclusively provide those kind of matches if we have like 1,000 people sitting there and they just can't find anybody because there's nobody passionate about I don't know, whatever Akira, or whatever anime is out there. So the second kind of match is if you'll every day you'll get a daily feed of 3 people. So you'll get there are 3 cards. And you'll see what they're passionate about. Now, if that's something you're curious about, if you see it and you say, "Oh, okay, I'm curious about that. Let me chat. Let me hit this send message request." You know how LinkedIn works. You get to send like a greeting, so you'll be able to type a short greeting to them, and then you'll go on the second kind of list, which is they have an incoming request. So then they'll see that this person is passionate about soccer, and they've written me this greeting. Okay, if I respond to this, then we become matched, like the first kind, and then we can freely talk.
Okay.
But then I can also choose not to engage with them, right? So that's the second kind. And the third kind of match is you can search whatever you want, okay? So you don't have to be passionate about it, or you could just be getting into it, but it's a free search, like Google search, but you don't search websites, you're searching people. So you can search a topic, and if you find somebody
who's passionate,
they'll show up, right, in your area, then you can, same thing, you can send a greeting, send a request, and then they can see that and they can choose to engage with you or not. So those are the
So can you just talk a little bit about how, like, when you launched this app, how are you going to generate users and get people involved in Passionfruit, the Passionfruit movement?
I mean, we have a small team working on marketing, and we're trying to brainstorm effective ways with essentially no money of how to make people aware of Passionfruit. So I mean, one of the ways is coming out to shows like this. I did another show for an actual radio station a while back. Obviously, social media, writing blogs. I've written several blogs on our website.
I read those.
And we're trying to actually get in touch with the universities for orientation week and see if we can get like a booth or a table there.
Wow, that would be,
and just spread the word. A few other things, but I can't think of them on the top of my head. But we keep evolving. We keep thinking about creative ways that we can get some organic reach going.
Yeah. I know you guys don't call yourselves a dating app, but do you think people are going to use it as one?
I imagine so, because I mean that's where most of the attention is in the social app space right now, and I think even Facebook said they're working on a new dating app. They're gonna
really?
Yeah, they're experimenting in house with their own staff actually.
I'm not surprised at all.
Which is
Facebook
funny.
Gets involved in everything.
Which is funny because they have an internal memo, I think, that I read about, that they want their employees to test it out,
but
they don't want them to actually seriously start dating each other. So it's like, okay.
Like promoting workplace relationships.
I know, it's a little bit funny. But so I imagine,
I'm just like, it's based on my like personal experience. Like if I was going to switch to Passionfruit, I'd be using it like, I'd want to meet new people, but I think I'd also use it to meet like romantic partners as well.
Yeah, I think so.
Because if it works for me, then it'll work for other people, right?
If it works, it works. But I mean, the thing with this is that even if it does work from a romantic angle, you're gonna have met a lot of people that you just connect with non-romantically. So it'll work in the long run, but don't expect that. Like, I only want to find a partner or a date or a hookup or whatever, and I'm going on Passionfruit, and I expect the first person I find, I'm only going to talk to people that's my objective, because it wouldn't work, because you don't even know what they look like, right? So you're probably, you may meet like 100 people that you get along with, you hang out, your friends or whatever, but eventually you might find somebody that you gel with from multiple facets, right?
Yeah, I think it's very similar to what Bumble Biz is doing. What Bumble's doing, Bumble Biz, but then again, you don't have the element of like the passion. Like,
yeah, the thing with Bumble, it's interesting you bring up Bumble, because I did study Bumble and all the Bumble BFF, Bumble Biz, and how they work. It's very interesting. Now, they're thinking along the same lines. Obviously, they get that people don't just want to like hook up. That's not all there is to life. Yeah. But they've segregated the community, right? If you notice, like, there's not many people on Bumble Biz. There's a lot of people on Bumble, right? So it's a bit, the experience is a bit odd, because the mechanics of it are the same, because you swipe people on Bumble Biz, and I'm not sure that's the best mechanic for
why
connecting.
is that?
I mean, because if you go on Bumble Biz, you swipe through the pictures, and they're trying to look their best, they're trying to look presentable.
Like, let's say if I'm a business owner, I'm going on Bumble Biz to meet like let's say for me, for my podcast, I met you on Bumble Biz because I was looking for young entrepreneurs. Like, if you're going in with that mindset, you're not looking at like what the person looks like. I was reading the descriptions on the people's businesses, right?
Fair enough. It could still work. Yeah, absolutely. But you have to kind of go out of your way. Like, you have to avoid the things that are not important to focus on the things that are, right? Yeah. So really, all we're trying to do is take out the things that are needed. For you, you wouldn't have cared what I looked like, right? No. So that's pretty much what we're just trying to simplify it and focus on what really matters. Because I think now you may have been able to maintain that discipline, but I think it's human nature. When we see pictures, certain neurons start firing, right? Other people, they actually still use Bumble Biz like they would use Bumble. Actually, I've had
people who try to like hook up with people on Bumble Biz.
I mean, well, here's the thing, right? With and again, we're going to go back to the whole,
because there's less users, they think they have a better chance, right?
That's one aspect. That's actually one big aspect. Another aspect of it is this: that human nature is such that for a lot of people, not all people, but for a lot of people, if things are too transactional or too direct, it's a turnoff. Actually, it's not exciting. It's not appealing. It's actually, sometimes it spooks you out, right? So, for example, if you're on an app where specifically the targeted and the marketed aim is to hook up, you're going to be pretty wary if you fall into that category of people, right? If you are more of a romantic person and you believe that you want to get to know people first, like without a context, without an agenda, and just get to see eye to eye, and then see how things develop and transpire, like sort of the classic saying, like, we were friends before we were just friends for a long time. If you fall into that group, then you would actually gravitate to using other services, anything other than the core Bumble, for actually meeting those needs, right? You would go to Bumble Biz, you would go to like LinkedIn, you would actually just try to meet people genuinely, right? So in fact, that is actually serving the purpose.
So fostering genuine connections, I think that's the message behind Passionfruit.
Genuine connections, exactly. Yeah, And human nature is such that when we're visual creatures, we can't avoid that part of our nature. But the thing with technology is that it's just afforded us this opportunity to connect. Like people connect based on they play the same video game. They're passionate about it, and,
right?
They actually become lifelong friends.
I'm a huge Leafs fan, and I know that's the first thing I'd enter on Passionfruit when I start. I'm going to start using it. And that's when I do. That's what I'm going to enter.
Right. So we give this opportunity for people to use technology to really to connect on something deeper, and you know how it goes. It's so going back to your other question about why would I use Passionfruit, right? It feels like a lot of the other apps, it's about the quantity, right? It's about the volume. You're served a lot, and eventually you might find the needle in the haystack or something, right? But we wanna go cut to the chase. We want to make it simpler for you to find the special people in your life, right? We don't want you to have to go through so many people, and some people actually tell me that it's very frustrating, the experience. It's like it's a lot of work. It's
with using dating apps.
These
it is.
Right?
I'd be the first to tell you that.
Right? Because we know how important your time is. We don't want you to have to get frustrated to find people that actually are going to stick around in your life for the long run, right? We want people that you're going to invite to your wedding, who are going to be around for the birth of your kids, or if important events in your life. They be with you thick and thin. They're really there for good. We really want to help you make those kind of connections. And that's what I just don't see is available in the market. Now, Bumble Biz is targeted specifically for like networking or business. And in that way, it is sort of different. But so this isn't that. This is to help you make those deep connections, to bring people permanently into your life.
It's not just focused on business or focused on dating. It's everything. Exactly. Just meeting people in general.
But one interesting thing though is now, in certain lines of business, or let's say you're looking to find a co-founder or a business partner to do something together, right? You need to have that level of trust, right? You need to really be able to feel that person's gonna have your back, right? Because you're starting a business, you don't have time to be worrying about, are they gonna screw me, right? Are they gonna take the money and run, or what are they gonna do, right? You don't have any luxury to worry about those things. So the thing with professional networking services now, it's everybody's got their profile and their credentials and everything, but so we know everybody's competent, but the key ingredient that's missing is, do I know I can trust them, right? So coming at this from a different angle, and another reason why you could use Passionfruit for even things like networking, and why it's different from what's available, is that we want you to build the trust first. We want you to connect as human beings, just on a basic fundamental level, right? And if you can trust each other, then it makes sense to consider, well, should we go into business together, or should we start a project together, right? Because you could know, like, this person is qualified in 20 different ways,
right?
But if there's no trust, then all of it's kind of futile, right?
So is there anything else, before we wrap up here, is there anything else you want people to know about Passionfruit?
So I think, as according to the landing site, we're coming in September, in time for orientation. So I just wanted to give a brief update that it will be a beta version of Passionfruit, and we hope to have a solid, fully working, all the bells and whistles version up in sometime in the next 2 months or so.
Awesome, and I know I'm definitely going to be one of the first people to use it for sure.
I'm excited.
Thanks so much for being on the show today, Paul.
Thank you, Stefan.
Thank you very much, and guys, check out Passionfruit, like he said, at the end of September, right? It should be.
Well, hopefully,
the beta.
in a few weeks. Actually, right now you can actually find the Android version of the beta on the Play Store. If you just search Passionfruit, it should be one of the first things that comes up. But it is early access, so I do caution that some things are a little rough around the edges, and some features are still being integrated inside. If you actually really just are so curious and you want to help us flesh the product out and test it, and you also use the iPhone, what you can do is you can join our mailing list, or you can send us a message on our website, and we can definitely get back to you, or you can just send an email to help@passionfruit.me. And I can definitely send you a personalized invite to test the iOS version, because the way that Apple does things for betas is a bit different. You gotta send people custom email invites, but I can definitely hook you up with that if you're really just passionate about seeing this thing come out.
Get passionate about passion fruit.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, thanks so much for listening to the Restless Millennial, guys, and keep hustling.